Welcome back to Bear Down, part of the Coach Steve Show, where we discuss everything about the Chicago Bears, good, bad, ugly, and especially the ugly.
Blah. Blah.
But we're here. It's Vikings week. It's another rival week, I suppose. They're going to host the Vikings at home, which is probably the only positive thing we got going for us, and the fact that Sam Darnold is the quarterback. Even though he's a lot better, but that's the only positives here. But we're here to discuss the preview versus the Vikings.
The Vikings. Skull Nation. The land of cheap vodka.
The land of cheap vodka and chewing tobacco.
Oh, goody.
I just was on a podcast the other day, and it's called Let's Skull. And I'm like, all I could think about was chewing tobacco the whole time. Let's Skull.
Let's Skull.
But it's a great name. It is a great name for their show. So talk about the Bears, Vikings. We were just talking. The news on the Bears has been quiet this week for once. It's just been the same chatter of like, why is Eberflus still the head coach and stuff? But that's even kind of, I think that's the only talk. I haven't really
there's not really much else. Gotta be honest with you. It's been pretty quiet. I think they need that for a change. You know, like everyone knew that like they did lose to like the Green Bay loss stung again. But it's kind of dulled down faster than I thought it would. The only thing I saw was that, and I saw a few people complaining that it was an illegal contact at the center when it got blocked. Apparently the NFL said it was not illegal. So they put that one to bed like really quick.
Yeah, you know, a part of me wanted to look at it. Pat McAfee talked about it too. I don't know if you have to like hit them with your shoulder pad and stuff. I think if you're going and your thigh hits them,
you can't bulldoze them over. That's the thing. Like they did this, like in Arizona. You remember that call?
Yeah,
like they did the same thing. That's because they bulldozed the center. You can't do that. You know,
Packers didn't bulldoze them. They just, because I know that's the rule. If the head's down of the snapper, you can't do anything. You can't line up head up of them. And it was almost like pulling straws for that one. Like, hey, you know, and that's what people were complaining about, I think, the most. And I'm like, you know what? It's over. It's done. Regardless, should have blocked him. Regardless, there should have been two things.
Without a doubt. Like, look, let's be fair. Get your blocks and keep some boys' hands down is what happens there. You know, or simple fact of the matter, you know, they're playing good defense all day. They just happen to give up the one drive with, I'll admit, fantastic catch, but still, you gave up two drives in a row where honestly Green Bay could have scored on both. You got lucky with one of them where they went for it on fourth down instead.
Right.
So like we could talk all day. Again, I've talked. They left 10, like Green Bay left 10 points on the field in that game. We could go back, but we don't. It's over. We lost. There's another game against Green Bay this year in Lambeau, whatever. We got that one to look forward to. Right now, we're in our home stretch. We get to face the Vikings, which I don't know here, Steve, but I feel like this is for the Vikings a trap game, and I think a lot of people think of this team as frauds in the NFC.
Yes, we were talking about the show I was on, and I very quickly in the moment was just like, I think the Bears will lose to the Vikings 2021. But this was on Wednesday night. Was it Wednesday night? I don't even know what day it is. It's Saturday, right? Yeah, I don't even know what day
it's Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
Just get your stuff in order. Stay still for a sec.
But the more I thought about it throughout the week, it's a trap game, I think, for the Vikings. Everybody's shocked that they're 8-2 right now. Like, I'm shocked that they're 8-2 right now. Even with their schedule, because their schedule isn't anything to like, oh my God, look at their schedule.
No, it's actually Patty. What do I say? Jason McIntyre on the Herd called it cupcake.
Yeah, and for the listeners, like their very first game was against the Giants, who just got rid of their quarterback just left. The 49ers, I would say a tough game, and it was close, but the 49ers have not been healthy. The Texans, they lost big, and the Bears had played the Texans close.
Yeah.
The Packers, close game.
Yep.
The Jets are terrible. then their toughest game, I think, to date is the Lions and the Vikings. I give them credit; they came back and lost by 3.
I mean, they were down
2,
down 1 point. They were up 1 point. Just need to stop the Lions. But again, this is Stan Campbell's Detroit Lions. Jared Goff and that crew are really good. It was going to be hard. And
right.
Jay Bates, no misses on the year. He's been automatic.
Right. Lose to the Rams. You beat the Colts. You beat the Jaguars in a 12-7 slugfest. And then you beat the Titans. So you have, what would you say? Two to 3 tough games in there. I would say 2. You could consider 49ers or Packers in that moment, and then the Lions.
I think, definitely the Lions game. I mean, that was the one I thought a lot of people went, okay, sure they lost to them, but they look legit, I think Green Bay as well. Funny enough, both scores 31-29, but they were on the losing end of the Lions matchup with that.
Right.
But no, I think them beating down on Houston and Green Bay, those aren't Houston's no patty cake. Green Bay is not, nor is Detroit. So, San Francisco, I don't know. I think that year's going to be a loss year. Injuries have just stacked up, and they're looking like they're not throwing in the towel, but are fastly approaching a irrelevancy for this season if they can't get a win this weekend. But no, I think opening part of the schedule, they definitely, I would say, showed up and were putting up numbers. But lately, though, I think teams are starting to, I don't know if it's just certain pressures is what it is, but Sam Darnold is the main question because he started off super hot. And while he still is serviceable, he's been serviceable. Like last week against Minnesota, against the Titans, he still threw for 2 touchdowns, 20-32, 246, and 107 QBR. But it's against Tennessee. They're a lost cause for season. Jacksonville, this one popped out to a lot of people. 3 picks. That game was a 12-7 slugfest against a very mediocre football team with Mac Jones at QB.
He has 10 interceptions on the year, and that's a lot to 19.
The only one, the only other one that has 10 picks is Jordan Love, but you could argue Jordan Love is way more explosive as a QB than Sam Darnold, I think, in terms of creativity.
Right. And Sam Darnold at that moment where he was hot, it was like he's reinvented himself. I'm not saying he's terrible.
No. For the Minnesota, for what they're doing this year, he's been great. It's just, I think people are starting to kind of figure out what to do against him and the Vikings right now, is how I view it.
They rely heavily on Aaron Jones, who came over from the Packers.
And Justin Jefferson, especially.
And Justin Jefferson. And so, but that's who they really rely on. I'm going to compare it to the Bears here. Aaron Jones has 692 rushing yards. Their next leading rusher is Ty Chandler, who has 169.
Right.
The Bears, DeAndre Swift has 635. And the second leading rusher is Caleb Williams with 306. And then Roschon Johnson has 137. But I think with Thomas Brown calling plays, and as we saw last week, Roschon Johnson was in there a lot more than what he's had been. Caleb Williams, 9 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions, so he doesn't turn the ball over. Caleb Williams has been sacked 41 times.
I know, it's disgustingly bad. Though they did tune that down a little bit last week. Still was not great. But the thing is that one thing that will help with this game that we got to talk about, because we got to talk about Brian Flores and that game plan is, they're going to send the heat a lot. And last week we saw a team that very much incentivized, get the ball out to somebody and make a play, let your playmakers make the plays, focus on removing and mitigating pressures so you don't have someone as a sitting duck.
Right. I guess we'll just feed off of that first is I know at the beginning of the year they were talking about Brian Flores has these exotic blitzes and does things that some people aren't doing in the NFL with his blitzes where they're bring pressure from and they're getting to the quarterback, which does not bode well for the Bears O-line because they have shown time and time again that certain stunts and pressures do mess with our O-line a little bit, and I think it messes with Caleb Williams and where he wants the protection. Now, to combat that, you have to motion a lot. You have to get in different formations. You start off in one, motion one guy, then motion another, and snap the ball. You have to get the ball out quick, and you may have to keep a tight end and a running back in to block and then check release. Oh, wait a minute. That's what Thomas Brown was doing against the Packers. He was getting the ball out quick. The O-line, I think, went to a basic pass protection, was more like big on big, and said, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We don't really need to slide protect, big on big. Caleb Williams, get the ball out quick, which he did. The motions helped him to see if they're in man or if they're, in zone. It makes the defensive eyes move a little bit. It makes them kind of change what they have to do and get rid of the ball. And you have to get the play call in quick. And I think going up tempo once in a while kind of slows down that blitz because you don't have time to call that in. And so I like that part of it. And that's how we're going to have to combat this. And the podcast I was on, they had mentioned that. They said, what scares us is that last week Caleb Williams showed again that he can get the ball out quick and it's fast and it's short passes. And I guess against the Titans and the week before, it showed that the teams that had moved the ball were doing those things because they were blitzing a lot. Screens. And I told him, I was like, well, you're about to play the most screen throwing team I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about screens, Chicago's going to run, even with, you said this last week, even with Shane Waldron gone, the screens still exist. It's not going away.
But I think Thomas Brown called them in better spots, and his screens weren't necessarily bubble screens. They were like getting the lineman out there to block out there quick. And his screens weren't necessarily bubble screens. They were like, why did I hear my voice twice?
Oh, that's on me. I monitored the chat, messed that up. That's why you heard me. Anyway, you're back.
Okay. But so those are the things that we're going to have to do on offense. And I think Tevin Jenkins is back, so that's going to help. I thought our two tackles played well against the Packers in the pass game. The run game could have been a little bit better, but the Packers are quick, and man, they played a lot of man. So when the run happens, they're able to fly down quick and move around a little bit. The Vikings, when they blitz, they do man and zone blitzes. So it's good, but that's why the motions are going to be so important, I think. And again, this is the offense I wanted to see from the Bears all year because
there were hints of it.
And then they bailed on it. And Thomas Brown, I think, did a good job of moving DJ Moore around. Like he started putting him back in the slot a little bit. And DJ Moore on a linebacker should win every time. And then he all of a sudden put Odunze in the slot. And then all of a sudden, he would keep Cole Kmet inside, hide him, and then get him out. Like those type of things is what the Bears need to do. Sometimes put Keenan Allen on the outside. So it's like you're just moving guys around and you're making the defense think about what you're about to do. And then keeping Roschon Johnson in, like, oh, he's in, they're going to run the ball, and they do a play action or do whatever, and they get the ball out quick.
Right.
Thomas Brown did a very good job of that. And, like, I also said this on that show. I said, well, we're on a very weird path here because deep down we wanted to beat the Packers, but if we did, Matt Eberflus is going to keep his job. He's reinvented everything. I don't know if it's still that same situation now. Like if we come in and beat the Vikings, is that going to be the conversation of like, look, they won? I think that's over. I think it's.
I think the difference there is people believe the Packers more than the Vikings. I think, which is kind of crazy. Like I said, Minnesota's beaten Green Bay this year, and
timeout.
Timeout.
Call timeout.
I'm gonna fiddle with this. Keep going.
Yeah, no.
There you go. I'm hoping that doesn't fail again, but keep going, please.
So now I think this is the week. Like last week, you made good. Even though I wanted to beat the Packers, I think that was the one time you and I like didn't butt heads. But you made very good points of like yes, to beat the Packers would be fine, but in this specific situation, we have to put on display that, yes, I think we all admitted the offense looked better. That was a positive. We didn't get the win. And Thomas Brown, I admitted to him, he said that. He said, there's no attaboys. He's like, we have to win. And he's like, I did not get it done.
And I like that. Like, you have to have that attitude as fans too, like better game than the better game plan over the last few weeks, of course, but like didn't get the thing finished. Again, they had a chance before their final drive to really put a nail in the coffin on this thing. And, they allowed Green Bay a shot, and Green Bay took their shot, and they decided to not be aggressive in that moment to the field goal. Again, no block. We talk about a different story, but I digress, So right. I don't know. Minnesota, I feel like just looking at kind of their production, it's really going to come down to how well they can manage the quick game and like how much I think Brian Flores relies and sticks to his blitzes in the way he does. I mean, he is, like I said, the blitz amount that he has is high, but does he adjust his game plan, of course, to focus more on, say, okay, I need to do coverage more? Because like Chicago's line, remember, 41 sacks in the season. The only one that's higher, 6 more up now, is Cleveland. And we're catching Cleveland, by the way. We were like double digits down on them. We are now almost, after a few weeks, we're now under 6 sacks away from beating them outright as a season lead. And again, we are historically giving up sacks. Remember this. So,
we're the best team at giving up sacks. Yay.
Yes. The Vikings have a 37% blitz rate. So very likely they'll keep it heavy. But I wonder, if they don't have success early, do you just bail on the blitz and see them kind of back off? Brian Flores, I feel like, is smarter than to just lean on the blitz the whole time as his only weapon.
I would say yes, but he is very aggressive, and it's a rookie quarterback.
True.
So there's that part of me that is maybe he won't blitz as much. And what I mean by that is, let's just say, example, there's 60 defensive plays. Like, there's a lot of plays in the NFL. Let's just say there's 50. Let's just go 50.
50, why not?
And let's say he normally blitzes on, if he blitzes 37% of the time, I would say, so what is that? He blitzes 20 times, 15 times.
So yeah, let me get the football reference stuff up, and I'll give you a better breakdown on this using my handy dandy calculator on here. So according to Pro Football Reference, through 10 games, they have blitzed 157 times this season. So about 15 to 16 a game. So, that's where you get I'm trying to do reverse math here, which I'm not good at.
So 15 times a game. So I'm just going to say 20, just to put it out there for me. If he blitzes 20 times normally, so let's say the first 10 blitzes, 15, it's not working. To get to that 20, maybe he does back off. But realistically, he's like blitzing 4 more times. Is that really going to change anything? And I think the biggest thing is that it's a rookie quarterback. So maybe to him, he's going to blitz, but it's not going to be like you can tell where it's coming from. Like, we're not going to overload this side. I think they're going to stick with it just due to even if it's not working, I still think they stay with it. And that's going to be the hard part, is because that's still smart, but maybe they change how they blitz. If it's a lot more man stuff and it's not working, maybe he gets into zone blitzes or vice versa. He is again, Flores is kind of like about Eberflus. Flores' time in Michigan, Florida as the head coach for Miami didn't go very well, but he's proven to be a great defensive mind.
Oh yeah, and I think you can see that people are now leaning in that he's probably going to be a head coaching candidate again because of this stint with Minnesota, like, no doubt about it. But I think that's like my thing. I know that this game has the potential to be one of those black and blue division games where you're just going to see who the hell finds and musters up the courage to get down the field to get some points.
Right.
And that they'll be at such a premium.
Right.
But I question if with the quick passing game that they have established with Chicago, under 3 seconds, get it to the first target, do they bail on that and focus more on the coverage? So that's just bring your guy down, focus on your front four, beating your guys on the outside or interior line, which, by the way, Ryan Bates, he's out for this game. So something to keep in mind, it's still weak in the middle, which if you blitz up there, we've seen Chicago's not great at reading those blitz packages whatsoever.
But the positive on the other side of this coin is that was with like Shane Waldron doing stuff. Now with Thomas Brown, is he able to fix some of that? And that's probably the only news this week is what Thomas Brown has been saying. Like he doesn't like moral victories. He's not going to sit there and say that. And he's saying, I don't know if this quote's true, and I'm paraphrasing it. I saw one that said, why am I going to make this team do something they can't do? I'm going to do things that they can do. And that's what we wanted to hear. Like, that's the stuff we want to know is like, what can this team do? Are you going to lean into what they can do?
Sounds like a lot of fans the last few years that have been really hating on how Nagy, Getsy, and Shane Waldron all treated not only quarterbacks, but also the talent around them. What are you best at?
Right.
Remember at the beginning of the year with Waldron, I was like, hey, we are a power run team based on the structure of the roster. Why aren't we leaning on, power run?
Exactly.
First? And they kind of been doing that. Like last week was encouraging. They went back to stuff that was working towards the end of that first stint before the bye, where it's like, yeah, just focus on downhill running and getting guys and linemen, especially in space to do their job, and it worked wonderfully. It's why I had the 39-yard touchdown run from DeAndre Swift. And, I'm not saying that it's always going to work that way, but look, you got to play to your strength. That's the thing. That's the only way you can do things if you're struggling, especially offensively,
Right.
One thing that sucks though, Minnesota gives up the least amount of rush yards in the league. So this is going to feel much like it's got to be a passing game first type of contest.
Well, and that's kind of, and I want to make sure I have my statistics right.
Meanwhile, Chicago is currently giving up just the 18th most and is, we've talked about this a million times. It is their weakness on defense.
Right.
Hands down.
The Vikings, though, are only getting 4 yards per rush, too. So
good point.
I know they seem to run the ball better at the beginning. Last week against the Titans, they struggled really bad to run the football.
Yeah, fun fact, Minnesota is 22nd in the league in passing yards a game, this season. They've not been too, and I think pre-show you were talking on the show you were on that they know that.
Yes, they know. I will say this, they knew kind of their weaknesses as we talk about our weaknesses too. Like when I went on there, I wasn't going to say like, even during that win streak, I would not have hopped on and said like, we're going to kill you Vikings. Like you got to be realistic, in those situations.
You mean like Prime? We coming.
Now, if Caleb was in year 4 and we had all these pieces, I might say that. I might be like, we coming. Like, don't worry about it. Or it depends on who our head coach was, right? If we had a different head coach, maybe I would say that. Like, yeah, we're doing this right now, but guess what? We're coming. Like, but the Vikings are not running the ball well either. So this is going to be interesting because the key to, and I said this, the key to going at the Bears, which you used to never say between like 2000 and 2018 and 19 even, I would argue, you never said that, like, run the ball on the Bears. Like, that was just never the thing.
Only time I can think that is the Trestman years, because for some reason, Mark Trestman just coming in where it was like, oh, we're investing in this offensive coach. All of a sudden it was like, well, yeah, but what about the stuff? Like, what about the defense? And you remember just these legacy players, complete drop off. One season. It was one season too. So it's nuts. I still will vividly remember that. And I can't believe it. Because after that, they like with John Fox, it felt like that kind of changed a little bit. They still were mediocre, but more offensively mediocre. How things were like, God, the freaking Jimmy Clausen years, or like the end of Jay Cutler. Yeah, that was a weird time. But yeah, I mean, I think what I'll find it is, and something I want to look at is, remember, while I agree that the run per attempt is bad, I'm going to put superstition on this. Aaron Jones is a menace to Chicago Bears fans everywhere.
I was going to get to that. Like, even though
the man plays differently when he goes to Soldier Field. That is something else that I am like scared of. too.
That's exactly what I was leading to. These stats, like it's gonna be interesting to watch, but it's Aaron Jones who just for some reason.
That's all you need to know. It's Aaron Jones, people. Packers running backs like former Packers or Packers running backs like Packers QBs, they have field days. Ahmad Green, I still have bad memories about Ahmad Green.
Oh God, yes. And the fact that Brett Favre had to do what he did with the Packers and the Vikings, like it was just like
Adrian Peterson, good God. Although that's that was a Vikings running back, but still a lot of nightmares from Adrian Peterson.
Oh, that's what the other gentleman on the show said. They were like, "What's your favorite memory with like Chicago and Vikings?" I really don't have one. Like I told him I was like, one of my favorite memories as a Bears fan is watching Brian Urlacher get that interception against the Saints in the snow in Soldier Field, and like that's a big memory, right? And there's others, but like I vividly remember that.
My most vivid Vikings memories, probably I hate to say it, but it's probably that when the Vikings were transitioning to their new stadium at US Bank, and it's the last game Brett Favre ever played was against the Bears, and got knocked out by a concussion. And then the other one I remember is, and this is the negative memory, is Adrian Peterson's 2,000-yard season. Because if you remember, that was the year Chicago completely collapsed off the rails. Like that was the 7-3 year. The last game that they played against the Vikings at home, Peterson ran all over them. They lost that game, and within 2 weeks after that, they lost a wild card spot because they lost to Minnesota. And that basically cascaded the events as to what happened to Lovie Smith getting fired.
Well, that's what the gentleman on the show said. They were like, "What's your favorite memory?" He goes, "When Justin Pearson or Adrian Pearson had like 296 rushing yards." It was like, he's like,
wait a minute. I'm going to hit a pause. So our favorite friend is back in the chat. So let me get this straight. No. Look at his recent one. So did he not like Justin either? Is he just a Tyson Bagent fan, period?
I guess maybe he's like me and wasn't a big fan of Fields. Maybe I could get along with this guy if he didn't like Fields either.
Doesn't like Fields, but also doesn't like Caleb? Huh. But likes Tyson.
Oh.
I mean, I like Tyson too, but like interesting.
Yeah.
Duality of man? Is that what it is?
I was ignoring him this time. I'm not going to even.
No, I think we find more Ghost of Judah tribe lore every time we do this show.
Yeah,
I have to add this in. That's a piece of lore right there.
I guess. I mean,
I'm sorry. I had to stop and look.
I was going to.
I don't mean to bring him into your life, but I just had to do it.
I saw it pop in. All I saw was put in Bajan. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Well, anyway, back to conversation now that we put that lore to bed. Like I said, the 2012 memory is mine that sticks out. And again, Aaron Jones has been a bane on Bears' existence in Green Bay. I highly doubt that's going to change against the Bears with what they have right now. But again, like it's going to come down. I think this is just going to be a street fight. Like this really doesn't feel like a game that's going to be going out of hand. Like we saw it against Green Bay. They're going to put up a fight. And I think Chicago's going to do a similar thing to what they did with Jordan Love, which by the way, I didn't realize Jordan Love only had 17 passes last week. Fun fact. So I'm in full belief what they're going to do is they're going to do the control the clock game, do slow methodical drives, keep Jones and Jefferson off the field to allow for so that Darnold has less times to find his weapons. And hopefully you methodically get scoring drives and you do more efficiently get scoring drives out of those,
right.
Which is closer to what the Bears were doing with past offensive coordinators when their scheme wasn't working.
Right.
So we'll see. Play keep away. Right. That's what I think is going to happen. It almost worked against Green Bay. It's one block. That's it. So,
yeah, we left some, like we said, we've already talked about that. Left drives on the field and then the block, but we did leave some drives out there, and the penalties hurt us too, like the false starts.
Oh my God! Don't get me freaking started on those.
That's
my goodness.
Looking back, like some of those drives, those are killers.
Terrible.
Now, happening once in a great while, it's going to happen. Every team does it, but for some reason against the Bears, or for the Bears, it happens at the wrong time. So if you clean up some of that and you start to move the ball and like do what you were kind of doing, and hopefully in some of another thing with the blitzes is some of the gap scheme running, like down blocking. Hopefully you block down those blitzers and you get some yards in the run game. But you're right. I do think it's going to have to be like play action, get the ball out quick. I think screen game's going to happen. And trying to talk about the blitzes, is he going to stay with it? From an offensive perspective, to get them out of that is to complete some of those quick passes and to have some screens. And I'm very curious if they will blitz, knowing that the Bears have all these weapons. Like, you have 4 legitimate guys that can catch the football.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like, if there's opportunities to get the ball out, then, that's where you got to do it. I think this will really test how much Thomas Brown's passing game is up to snuff and getting the ball out, and how much Caleb Williams learned from last week with, just focusing on, hey, get your target open, like don't panic. Don't speed up your clock too fast, just get it going,
right.
Positive reinforcement, positive conversions to keep adding on to a drive. That's what you need to be doing. I really believe that.
Right.
Minnesota's going to test you that way, because if a blitz doesn't get home, odds are you're going to have plenty of open space, most part. Send, not even if you send one, but say you send 2 guys, overload one side. Cool. Well, I hope to God the other side's open up and you can get it free. It's going to be key.
And then defensively, good God, you got to stop Jefferson.
Yeah.
You got to but I said this on another show. I was like, I don't really get too worried about the secondary. I know we haven't had Brinsker in, but he's been gone for so many weeks. I still don't worry about that part. It's the front 6. That's the part that, and we talk about Aaron Jones running the football. Up front, though, we have to get pressure somehow on Sam Darnold. I think that giving up almost 30 sacks, there's somehow, some way, Matt Eberflus is just going to have to find a way to make him uncomfortable, get him to move a little bit, and hopefully that disrupts a little bit. And if you get him to move, then it becomes our secondary has to make a play on Jefferson. Jefferson will get his. And I'm not talking about touchdowns, just some catches.
He always gets his.
Usually
gets his, actually.
But we have to find a way to make him uncomfortable anytime they want to pass it. And I think he's going to have to come up with some exotic blitzes. But what sucks is sometimes I think he's still a great defensive mind, but I still think sometimes the coaching safe method sometimes happens with the defense at times, worried about what could go wrong. Flores doesn't worry about that. He's going to blitz, do all that exotic stuff, and whatever happens, and he's going to have to learn from it. At some point, Matt Eberflus has to say, screw it. Here's our season. Go. And I don't think he'll ever do that. If I was Matt Eberflus, you have to kind of know that you can't even sit down in your seat right now. It's gone. Right. The fire has burned it.
The game plan works, guys. What are you talking about? This building isn't on fire.
Oh God. In the back of your mind, you kind of have to know that. And in order to just kind of save these players and their season, just go. Stop worrying about what's going to go wrong and say, what can my guys on defense do? And if this is how they play, go. Just freaking go and get pressure on Sam Darnold. This is not a quarterback that's going to burn you running the ball. And just move and trust that the secondary is just going to say, screw it, and just play tough and physical. And then hopefully that gets the juices going. And maybe when they start running the ball, maybe they won't get 8 yards a pop on us like everybody else. You're able to get to make some stops here and make some tackles. We saw that with Green Bay. There was a couple times we did stop the run here and there, just not consistently. And that's the frustrating part.
I mean, it was better effort than recent weeks. They only gave up, and still seems a little too much to me, they only gave up 106 yards, but it was a pseudo inefficient effort. 17 carries for 75 yards, still a little over 4 carries a clip, but nothing big, So better, but still worries me.
Yes.
Got to be honest with you, especially a game like this where, I think Minnesota's focusing on trying to limit turnovers, but they're also going to have to fight. How often is Jefferson going to beat Jalen Johnson one-on-one? The prime battle of the weekend that I think can also make or break this is how much does Jefferson school JJ or the opposite way around? Not to say they don't have other very quality receivers in that secondary, but clearly that's the one they want to get to the most is him.
I mean, Jefferson's been targeted 86 times. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And out of those 86 times, he's caught the ball 59 times. Like, he almost has 1,000 yards. I mean, he's obviously the guy.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Addison's still a very valuable asset there.
Yes.
And is someone that can cause problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they do have other weapons. And so I just hope that we don't forget about those other weapons that they do have. But that's why I think you have to get pressure on Sam Darnold and make him uncomfortable. And even if he gets rid of the ball without roughing the passer, just hit him a couple times and start to make him think a little bit. And especially if you can slow the run game down. If you're blitzing and getting there and somehow able to slow it down, which I don't know if they will. But yes, this is set up to be a similar game to last week, like lowish scoring and just hit. I think that's what's going to happen. My big worry for the whole team is you lose on the Hail Mary, and the type of effort you had against Arizona was terrible. You lose this heartbreaker to the to the Packers. I just hope we don't see the same kind of letdown coming in. And, were the Bears playing with more effort because it was the Packers game? Or was it because there was a change made and Thomas Brown comes in and there's a little bit he talked about, he goes, I have a higher standard in practice. And that's the stuff we wanted to hear. Like, I have a higher standard in practice.
I mean, that's saying the right things, like bravo. I'm not going to flag you for anyone for saying that. Being more vocal at the mic, being on the mic, by the way.
And taking blame. Like, he's like, yeah, I take blame for this. He didn't make an excuse of, I was the play caller for 3 days before the game started. Like, he didn't do any of that. He was like, I have to do a good job of putting guys in right. Like, regardless if that's what's actually happening behind the scenes or not, at least it's better than what we have been hearing, and taking blame for it and talking about it and being real. Like, saying what a head coach should say, that's what he was saying.
Yes.
So I just hope that we don't have the same kind of letdown. It is another rival game, but it's not on par with the Packers. But it's an NFC North, division game. It is a rival game.
It's black and blue, hands down.
It is at Soldier Field, so that gives us a little bit of advantage. It is cold in Chicago. I think tomorrow, I don't live in Chicago. I live, a decent amount away. I'm freezing in my basement right now. Tomorrow's supposed to be like a high of 50. In Chicago, that's probably going to be like 40, 45, if not lower. So I know the Vikings, whatever, they play in the dome and whatever, but that's another thing is how they're going to handle the cold here in Chicago. Yeah, it's going to be a physical game. If we come out with energy, it's going to be a punch type of game. And you just kind of hope that Thomas Brown continues to evolve play calling, and you just kind of hope Matt Eberflus stay out of his own way. Like, just stay out of your own way. There was a small part of me that's like, you know what? Maybe he should just give up play calling and just be a head coach, but I don't know if I trust that either.
Yeah, I'm good. I think just whatever. I mean, if they're not going to let him go, just stick the course and get it over with, which they won't. They're not going to let him go. So whatever.
No,
I mean, I got nothing to say to that. They're going to keep him on.
There's two chances to get rid. They won't get rid of him, but let's just play the theoretical. Let's just go into a fantasy world.
Yeah, let's play the post-Thanksgiving theoretical scenario, right?
Yeah, I was going to say there's only 2 times that you could get rid of him. You missed the first one.
The first one was. Yeah, the first one was there, but that was going to. Like you and I talked. You knew this was going to be the scapegoat. They were going to kill off the OC.
If they lose to the Vikings. And they'll probably lose to the Lions, even though we played them decent last year. Last year, there was times we played them decent.
We did split them, and they do it. And we can talk Detroit hopefully later this week. And we know they have a few injuries on defense that might be key, but that's going to be a tough sell for me to keep up. Plus, with that run game, that is that whole thunder lightning with Montgomery and Gibbs. I don't know.
And the fact that Jared Goff is playing MVP level.
I mean, sans a 5-pick game, he's freaking killing it this year. Like, he's become a better version of himself year over year.
So the next opportunity they have is if we lose these next 2 games, because the Lions game will be a quick turnaround to play on Thanksgiving Day, it would be that Friday, like at that next day, and say, you know what, now it's time. They won't do it, but that's the next opportunity. So after Friday, if it does not happen, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
They will we'll do the same song and dance, especially if we don't win against the Vikings, because I just don't see us beating the Lions, which we'll get to way later on. I really don't know another team like that you beat outside of that.
I think San Francisco is my one that I'm feeling kind of confident on, just because they feel like they are a injury. Just they feel like a medical wagon right now. Like just they've not consistently been able to stay healthy. They're dealing with that stuff all season, but that's later on the year. Maybe they do get healthy, and get everything together, which would suck. But
I would say
I think Minnesota is a winnable game. Just it's going to be that kind of rough beat 'em up game. You're going to have to play gritty and win the line of scrimmage.
Because I would say Vikings, 49ers, and Seahawks. Like those are
probably your most winnable opponents. I agree.
I would say maybe the Packers again, but it'd be at the Packers, depending how the rest. We have a tough schedule, so it just kind of depends on how we look at that moment. How do the Packers look at that moment?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at it, Vikings, I don't think we beat the Vikings twice. I think they would get us once.
Yeah, I mean, we split with them last year too. I think we're going to do at best the same again. So,
and then Seahawks, and if the 49ers are not healthy in that moment, then maybe them, but it is at the 49ers, so we would have to see what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I told on that show, I was like, it's not the best of times to be a Bears fan. Like we had high hopes. Well, that was another thing they said. They're like, what was realistic expectations? And I said, realistically, I never said they go to the Super Bowl. That was not one of those people. Realistically, and you and I agreed on it, competing for a wild card playoff spot was kind of where we were looking.
10-7 felt very obtainable. I don't think it is now, but
no.
I thought at the beginning of the year, it's a very obtainable goal with what they've invested everywhere else.
Yes. And that's why I told them. And so I think that's why after I hopped off and I heard them say they were very realistic, or like they were very humble is what the words were used.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm glad they said that, because like the rest of the fandom doesn't seem to understand that online, that, hey, it's okay. We know we suck. Like you don't have to try and pump your chest up all the time,
Oh, yeah. So it was just one of those. So it's going to be a tough game no matter what. I am shocked that the Vikings are 8-2, but you look at their schedule, you could kind of see how they got there. Mm-hmm. But even then, with the schedule, with Sam Darnold at quarterback, they have done a good job coaching with it and finding ways to win. They're doing a good job there. And the Vikings, always like the Packers, just somehow, some way, they sneak their way around and find their way into the conversation. Yeah, it'll be a tough game. It's going to be...
Yeah, it'll be tough. I mean, Chicago has had more recent success against Minnesota than the other two opponents in the division. So, I think it's anyone's ball game. But I guess this is a good segue to say, what's your score prediction, man?
So I told you on that show, I was kind of just winging it. And I said Vikings 28, Bears 21. The more I think about it, being a trap game, I liked what I saw from the offense, from what it was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think we're over the does this save Matt Eberflus's job? The only way Matt Eberflus saves his job is if they only lose 2 games out of this stretch. Like that would, and I hate to say that, like I don't think he should save his job, but I guarantee if they did that, that conversation would happen.
I'm near praying to God that we just get to the end of the year and they do the very obvious choice. Whatever.
Right.
You're gonna stay the whole year like that. Fine. Just do the obvious thing.
Right. But I think we're over the saving his job thing. Being the Packers, that conversation definitely was going to happen and say it was all Shane Waldron's fault. So we're over that now. I think we can kind of move forward and say, like, okay, now I want to win. If the offense does what it does, or continues to take the step forward, and Caleb Williams can continue to do those things, they can probably move the ball. And I am going to put trust into Thomas Brown that whatever happens in the blitz and the stuff that they'll see, that he can make the proper adjustments. I kind of, after what I saw, I kind of trust him to do that. Lowish scoring game. It'll be close again. I'm going to go 24-21 Bears. I'm going to put that into the hands of them.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not low scoring, but it's still like that type of game.
Yeah, I actually am going to go and agree with you. I think the Chicago is going to steal a win here. This will be, I think they'll win this one at home. Similar feel. I don't think it's going to get to 20. Personally, give me 16-12 Chicago.
Ooh, really?
I think it's going to be
school.
ugly. I think it's going to be an ugly game.
That's really old school.
I think between Minnesota being, I won't call them frauds, but I will call them lesser than what the record states.
Yeah, right now,
opponent.
Minnesota is -3.5, which fine. Like, put them there. Over under 40 points.
My main lean is I think they're going to get turnovers to win this. That's going to be the bread and butter. I think this will be a game they get to pressure Sam Darnold. They're going to force 1 or 2 picks, is my prediction. And I think those picks will help them propel to a win in some way. That's my prediction.
Yes.
If Chicago can't get any turnovers in this one, Minnesota's going to walk away. Personally,
I agree, and that was kind of what that other show said. Like, that's what worries them, is that the Bears defense is really focusing on trying to get turnovers.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to need it. I think that's really going to make or break. Is like, if Sam Darnold plays a smart game, he's able to find Justin Jefferson on a pseudo regular basis, and Aaron Jones can like rally off 4 yards a clip on runs. Chicago's going to probably lose this one. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes.
But if they can get at least 1, maybe 2 turnovers, 2 turnovers would be ideal. If they can at least get 1 that turns the tide, they'll play a close enough game where I think they can walk away with this time. So we'll see. And watch as Minnesota will come in and like shellac them at home or something.
I said, the biggest thing for me is going to see the energy and effort of this team. That if we have the same energy and effort of last week, it will be a close game no matter what the score is.
Yeah.
If we have a Arizona Cardinals type of effort, this is not going to be pretty.
Well, no. I mean, you got to consider, like, I'm with you on this. They are coming off a very deflating contest against their bitter rival. So we'll find out. I mean, that's a hard one to bounce back from mentally.
Yes.
It clearly showed up.
To slowly end it, I have an announcement.
Ooh, interesting. Actually, pause before that. Sarah Zhang here. I'm calling them frauds in terms of, and listen to me very carefully, I'm calling it in terms of their record being a little more deceiving than what we're seeing. I think Minnesota 8-2 is a surprise in the league. It shouldn't have been a team that was going to be last that was going to be second in the NFC North. But to say that this team has looked the same as it was at the beginning of the year, we thought they were going to be world beaters, and now all of a sudden they're playing down to opponents. Like, that's what I'm leaning into. Like, I think they'll play down to Chicago's level, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, yes, you want to be honest? Yes. I am not going to say they're frauds in the division. They're 8-2. They've currently beat the Packers once. So I'm going to sit there. But to say that I believe they're better than, say, like Detroit or Philadelphia, or even I could even argue that Arizona is better than them, to be honest with you. Yeah. In terms of division leaders.
I think what you're saying,
I'm just trying to tell you, I think they're good. Record's good. I just don't think they're as good as their record shows.
Well,
right now,
like we said at the beginning of the show, was they're 8-2, which is great. Like, I would love to switch places and be having that conversation.
And again, good wins against Houston and Green Bay.
They didn't being
honest, but yes, I still look at recent work recent work says you played down to a Jacksonville Jaguars squad that has Mac Jones starting in lost by 5 and almost lost. You won by 5 and gave up 3 interceptions. Like, I can't look at that and be thinking of you as a serious, massive contender. I think you got your record and we're looking good, but I think teams may have found a few things that work better against you now.
And I want to comment on this next part. Said the Bears are frauds. We all heard all offseason the Bears were going to the playoffs.
Well, that we can maybe agree is now it's not realistic anymore. But yes.
But to argue that, you are hearing that in the media and a lot of the fans all over Twitter that the Bears were a lock to the playoff Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
People like me and Zach, I just want to put this out there. We never said that it was a lock to make the playoffs. We just said with the roster and what could happen was they're fighting for a spot for the playoffs. Not that they were getting in, but they were in a position to say, like, okay, we got to win like these next 2 games to get that position. That's the position I wanted to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So just I'm not going after this person, but just be careful.
No, I think it's better that we elaborated that, because I'll be honest with you. Yes, if we're putting it as they're frauds, 8-2 record doesn't mean fraud, but like I'm telling you, recent work, definitely this does not feel like the team that was putting up 34 on Houston, and walking out of there like, look, king of the castle, Right. I just don't feel the same about them as I did first half of the season. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah, I didn't see that comment. Good thing you caught that. I thought it was.
But anyway, I want to get to your announcement now. I wanted. What you got for us? What's going on in your life, man?
I have decided who my closet fandom's going to be.
Ooh, drum roll. I don't have a drum pad thing. Keep going. I gotta hear this.
I will still kind of root for the Lions, but my in-closet fandom will be the Chargers.
Wow. Love Jim Harbaugh.
I still will secretly root for the Lions. Like, I hope they win the Super Bowl because I think that'd be great for the city of Detroit. I love Dan Campbell. Like, if I could be a closet fan, it would be the Lions. But since they're in the division, I know that's hard to pull off. Like,
sure.
How can you do that? But I love my favorite coach in the whole NFL would be Dan Campbell. Like, I that's my favorite coach in the league right now.
I can sense that. Jim Harbaugh, though, I like the guy's style personally.
He's similar. Like, he's similar, like he wants to be physical. He wants to,
like former player, so that always helps. But like he's been a master at having people buy into what he does.
Yes.
All the time. The only thing that's kept him back is ownership and GMs that butted heads with, because he wants a little more control of the pie.
Yes.
But it's a good thing that he does have some control of that pie.
Yes, because he knows what he's doing when it comes to player stuff. Like, that's what he wants control over. And I think he gets along with the players very well. Like, you see the connection with him and Justin Herbert this year. Like, they are very in tune. You see him in the locker room. Like, they all go, they're picking up what he's putting down. And so that'll be my closet. And the fact that I already have a Justin Herbert jersey that I won for free. I didn't go buy it. I won it.
Not
so
bad.
that'll be I'm going to root for the Lions, but that'll be my other closet fandom, I think.
San Diego, or damn it, I wish they're still San Diego, but Los Angeles, they've sneakily gotten better every week. I kind of like where they're sitting. Like, they're not like this like too talked about team, but like they're quietly 7-3 and are looking like one of those like hard out wild card teams right now. I don't think they win the West because of the fact that the Chiefs are not going to give up another game this year, I think, or they will maybe one more, and it might be the Chargers. But
the Chargers are a few pieces away. Like, they're not doing a clean rebuild like the Bears did.
Well, I didn't think they need to. They're a little old on the defense, but like J.K. Dobbins was a great pickup in free agency, and then they do need, I think, a little bit of receiving help. Ladd McConkey is like one of the surprise players of the year right now. But they could use a second receiver to throw targets to.
Yep.
If we're being honest. But it's like, it's a great core. They're building stuff the right way. They're bullying people at the line, and then they have a quarterback that doesn't need to do too much, even though he can, because Herbert can. He just doesn't have to anymore.
Yes, and they pointed this out. Could have had Harbaugh. We know. We know we could have had
Sarah, you are on our side. We understand the pain. We could have done the good thing, but we didn't. We let that slip away. Because
you want to talk about a quarterback whisperer? Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh.
God damn it.
Or you want to talk about a quarterback whisperer? The Bears could have hired Bruce Arians years ago.
Oh, I know. We could have talked about Bruce Arians in Chicago back in 2013. But no, that's not us. Sorry. It's funny because Arians actually interviewed Chicago. He just wasn't the favorite pick. That's the thing.
Yeah, fuck him.
At least that's better than like previous conversations about certain candidates where they weren't even invited back. You know,
Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, Cliff was one of them, but I think Cliff needed his year as an OC before he gets talked about this offseason. So I think he's got a firm grasp on getting hired again. Just we'll see where.
Oh yeah, that was the other question. Was like you guys could have had Jane Daniels, and I was like, I know, but like,
okay, well, it's too early.
I was like,
early.
But then I said the part of the reason why he's good is because I think Cliff Kingsbury is playing to his strengths. So I was like,
that's a good. Sarah's got a good point. We chose Matt over Kevin O'Connell. I mean, you got to admit, Kevin O'Connell's been a pretty good coach for Minnesota.
That's another one.
Cardiac kid guy to the extreme, but like he knows how to coach those situations. I'm just saying.
Oh no,
that's another miss. I agree.
So we just another. We want to talk about the Bears and wait a minute. Let's see.
Caleb Kamala Williams. These get funnier every time. I love it.
NFL Ready, they said generation. They said we were right, and the Caleb Colt was wrong. Caleb Kamala Williams.
Wait, now it's the Caleb Colt? Like we've moved on from the Colt of Fields to the Caleb Colt.
A ghost is smart. What does that mean?
Oh, it means Ghost of Judah is smart.
Oh yeah,
right. But now keep him. Now I'm more. Actually, I want to hear one thing. So I want I want to entertain this. So Chris Foster, I see is chatting. I'm curious. Are you like Judah? Are you like Ghost of Judah, where you believe Tyson Bagent should have been starting last year over Fields as well?
You want to talk about a Colt? What about the Justin Fields Colt? What about that?
Well, that's a real Colt last year. That was. And they still were up until he got benched in Pittsburgh. They were still saying, "Hey, shouldn't let him go." But now it's like, no, Russell Wilson's okay. So at least a little more sane, I think. Wow. Nah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Chief.
Oh God.
And I think
oh God. Oh God.
A little extra.
Oh God.
A little extra on the Galeb.
Oh God. We got a bunch of idiots out there.
I wanted a haul like 2023. Yeah, but okay. Interesting. So, okay, one more question, then I'll stop entertaining this and we'll probably end the show. So, Chris, do you think the Bears should have paid Justin Fields decent money? Like, let's say comparison. Should they have paid Justin Fields like Daniel Jones?
What's he saying here? New England trade.
I don't know if that would happen.
I don't know about that one.
Draft class was rich last year in quarterbacks, so yeah.
What did Fields do to prove that? Never mind. I don't know if I have energy.
You would have. Oh my God, this is hilarious to me. So you would have rode and not drafted someone, but instead of watching the same thing happen again this year, you would have gone into a weaker draft class for quarterback to get your quarterback.
Wow.
Like that's what we're talking about, right? Like, so no fifth year option. We ride the season out, probably have similar results. And we draft, if we don't get Sanders, we get Will Howard.
Like that was
the next best one on the board. Like,
I don't think people understand. That's the position the Bears were kind of in. I wasn't a Fields guy, but at least you knew what was going to happen with Fields. And he wasn't winning and he wasn't doing things like, and so the Bears had to make that decision. Like, we have a strong quarterback draft class this year. The next year, we're not going to have it. We would have to kind of go into free agency and hope to get one, or keep Fields and just kind of like whatever.
Hey, I just wanted to hear this. I just wanted to hear the take.
Fields one more year, we would have the best roster in the NFL, top to bottom, besides a good quarterback. Isn't that what we have now? If you're going to go that route,
his only argument I kind of agree with is investing in left tackle.
Oh no, I
also argue that's not the strength, the weakness of the line either. It's the interior that's the problem.
Yeah, it's the interior. You saw last week when the tackles were healthy.
Like, you don't need a left tackle. Clearly, the guard and center positions are the problem.
Yeah, I think we can all agree they should have invested in the O-line, but you had to look at the draft class and say you had Caleb Williams, you had Jaden Daniels, you had Drake May, who's starting to figure it out a little. Like, he doesn't look too bad. Like, John Gruden loves Drake May.
May's looked all right. Like, I mean, shoot, man, he freaking boat raced us in Chicago 2 weeks ago. So
New England trade has us left tackle.
Who's JPJ? Why am I spacing on that one? Am I missing something?
I don't know.
All right. I think that's going to call it. I just thought this was entertaining to talk about this real quick. Thank you, Chris Foster. You've made this a very fascinating end of show conversation.
About the center. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Yes. I understand who you're talking about. Yeah, I understand. Best center in the draft that fell early. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Fair enough.
Since you have no line to protect the quarterback. Yeah, I get it. Yes, we all in agreement that the investment to rebuild should have been the O-line. It's kind of like what the Lions did. But I also am trying to look at the other side of it going, I think Poles had he's looking at these players and going, I have to get these players.
Right.
But we're talking about trades that would have to be agreed upon, and I hate that. Like, we could sit here and talk about trades. Was New England going to agree to those trades? Like, that's the thing. Like, I hate talking about trades because they know this isn't the draft.
And that's the thing. I don't think that, like, I get some teams might have been desperate, but like, this was a pretty rich draft class for quarterback.
I think so too.
Is how I felt like it, even though some chat has said disagree on. But I mean, again, Williams was going to go high. Daniels was going to go high. Again, if you're a Heisman winner at that position, you're going to go high, most likely. You know, Drake May had a bunch of hype going in as well. Like, you know, the Bo Nix being a veteran he was and having incredible seasons in Oregon. And he's looking, I say lately, he's looking great. Colin Cowherd's like his favorite quarterback right now.
JJ McCarthy, up until the injury, they were.
Yeah, I mean, McCarthy we haven't seen, but you knew he was going to go, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's 5 first rounders. Like, at that point, the trade for one, like, you have to be a desperate organization at that point, or you just don't believe in any of them, or one, like a certain like third of them or something like that is how I feel.
Right. I think the only other argument is that if you don't take a quarterback, you can really focus on the O-line. But then again, you are sacrificing, like, you're taking, I understand taking a rookie's a risk, but it's like you've seen what Justin Fields could do for 3 or 4 years. Like, this is what it is. Has he gotten better in these areas? Probably not. Then you blame coaching, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just this big what if stuff. Bo Nix played 50 years in college. Of course,
I know. It felt like an eternity, man. Like, really. But I mean, hey, you know, some of that, I'll be honest with you, like, between him and Jaden Daniels, kind of seems like that might be one of the new strategies for quarterbacks is like, hey, maybe these guys that are really good seniors that have had such a long time to like get the game down in certain programs, like, keep in mind 2 of the drafted quarterbacks, like, you know, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, you know, they went a whole college career plus.
Yeah.
You know, like Daniels is 23. He was at Arizona State before he transferred over to LSU.
Well, that's a whole other podcast. Is with the
like maybe that's like I said. I've wondered maybe that is the new play. Look for some of these guys that are at like good pro. Like, yeah, they just go and they are older, but they have more games under their belt.
Well, that's a whole other podcast. Is our quarterbacks and these even just players in general, do they stay in college longer because they're getting paid, and then they are trying to win a championship because they're getting paid? They have opportunity to try to win a national championship or something, instead of like, I could play another year instead of going to the NFL and all that stuff. Caleb the Clown.
Well, one of these stats is already wrong because he only has 5 picks on the year, so I'm gonna just pump the brakes on that one really quick. But
Caleb the Clown versus top 25 defense. They played 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 170 yards per game, and people are shocked he sucks now. But what about not his senior year? I think you might be going after his senior year. What about the year before?
He's talking college. I'm being a doofus. Sorry, Chris. That's on me.
Yeah, he's talking about college.
I saw you. Yeah.
But I will argue that the USC team in general last year was not good. He was the only person that was like really competent. They did not have the same receivers. And look at them now. USC is not good this year. Like, it's just not. The year before, when he brought all the Oklahoma guys with him before they left, they were pretty good. They went 11-2.
I think Lincoln Riley's been an exposed head coach last 2 seasons. That's a random college take I could add in at the end, just because man's getting paid a lot of money to do pretty much jack shit over in Los Angeles.
I don't know about his stats. I'm sure they're right, but I remember Caleb having a lot of throwing yards. I don't know about
versus top 25 defenses.
Top 25 teams.
Oh, yeah, you're looking it up right now. I'm going to take it.
Caleb Williams, a former Heisman Trophy winner, has a record of 4-7 against top 25 opponents in college.
Yeah, but I guess the defense part's a little different. That's the thing. While you're looking that up, Sarah's got a great one. We're actually getting some great chats at the end. I know Chris is making this more of a debate talk, but I love that discussion. So do you want a young head coach or a seasoned guy? So here's the thing we've talked about on this show. You can go, and I'm going to put this right out. I don't think they land Ben Johnson. I think Johnson does not want to come here. I think he wants to go somewhere that's a little more somewhat established and is trying to get a quick change. I would want Ben Johnson, though, and I agree with Chris. I want Ben Johnson. However, if we can't get Ben Johnson, it leaves me 2 options, I think, that are going to be looked at the most. There are a few others. I've had buddies of mine that they're saying, oh, you should look at Brian Flores. I don't want a defensive coach again. That's my problem. But Brian's going to get hired somewhere. It's fine. Well, and Chris says one of the guys I think is likely to get hired is Mike Vrabel. And the other one, he actually said, Cliff Kingsbury. Here's the thing. I don't think they land Ben Johnson. I just don't. I think he's going to be picky. I think he won't want to come here unless the Bears sell the house to him or something. I think that leaves only 2 realistic options. I don't think Belichick's available, by the way, and it sounds like Jacksonville's going to be his play if things go south for Doug Peterson. So that to me leaves Cliff Kingsbury and Mike Vrabel. Kingsbury, because you have the relationship with Caleb Williams, which I know Chris has already said that, and so is or me for HC. Interesting. Should I be head coach? Do I have what it takes? Take Steve. Steve's literally the coach on the show, and you picked me. I love it. Steve's the GM. How about that? We'll make you the GM.
You want me to be the GM? All right.
I mean, I'll flip it around. I don't mind. I'll do player personnel GM.
I think that's what would be better. Is you take over that part, and I will coach.
Why not? Why not?
I've been a varsity football coach for 15 years.
We'll workshop this. Gonna have to mean Ryan Poles gets let go, which, I mean, I don't think that conversation's here yet, but it's probably going to be talked about in the offseason, a little lesser than the other 2. But I think Kingsbury and Vrabel are going to be the 2 main candidates, because Vrabel is not going to be, I would say, Belichick unavailable. And I think that he's also proven recent track record more so he can win. Yes, his last few seasons were not ideal. However, you talk with some Titans fans, and let's just say that some of the roster management was not great for how they handled that roster towards the end. Man still won two division championships. Man still made 3 straight at the time playoff appearances and an AFC championship game and above 500 record in 6 seasons. I think that's nothing to slouch at. So I get Chris's fear. I don't want to retread fired head coach, but Vrabel, to me, I still feel was the victim of the front office over his own undoing. Plus, he lost Arthur Smith. Keep in mind, Arthur Smith left 2 years before he got fired. Funny enough, those 2 seasons, weren't so hot. You can argue that wasn't a great recruiting portion. So, I digress. But I think Vrabel and Kingsbury are going to be their targets for whenever, hopefully, Matt Eberflus is let go. I've seen Sarah saying maybe Shanahan. You've said
I was going to say
past, that. Maybe Shanahan gets a restart in Chicago. I don't know. I mean, he's veteran. He's got good offensive mindset, and arguably, you could argue, as much as I like Brock Purdy, would have the more athletically talented quarterback he's worked with in his tenure in San Francisco.
Yeah, Sarah saying 49ers fans want Shannon gone. And I talked about that last week, or last time was he's gotten to a lot of Super Bowls. This is happening. They're kind of injured prone, which is not his fault. Proven head coach, right? So I say if it came down to Ben Johnson or Kyle Shanahan, do you kind of lean towards Kyle Shanahan because he has had coaching experience over Ben Johnson? Yeah, that's the trick question. Head coaching experience or not? I mean, for Bears, we just hired a guy over with no head coaching experience, and look what's happened, right?
Right, but I'll be frank with you, and you and I both noticed, even back a few years ago, people were valuing that as a lame duck hiring during that coaching cycle was Matt Eberflus.
Ben Johnson has not proven he can develop a quarterback. Yes and no.
I mean, to be fair, he has only worked with Jared Goff, who, was only really working with either Sean McVay or him.
Yes.
So, and you could argue Jared Goff. I know some people want to say he's a system quarterback. Jared Goff's a good quarterback. I'm laying it out here. I've said it, and I will keep saying it. He's a good quarterback that unfortunately got dogged by Sean McVay and some of his, I would say, inefficiencies towards the end of his LA run. So there's that you can put into it.
Yeah. So, that's a tough question, because I think you have to look at Ben Johnson. I think you have to look at the 49ers and see what Kyle Shanahan does. I think then you have to consider Cliff Kingsbury. Again, he's young and he's had head coaching experience. And hopefully he's learned from the mistakes that have happened in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he's coached Caleb Williams already. He played quarterback, so he understands all that. Then I think you have to look after that. Maybe Vrabel after that. So I think those are the 4 people I think you have to keep your eye on in order to hire a head coach.
Yeah.
My fear is they'll take a coordinator, they'll take somebody else outside of that. That's my biggest fear is that. And
I wouldn't put it past them. We've seen the team where it's recent 3 cycles where you're like, this seems like a guy they should very much target. And then they don't go. And it's someone that was on the list that people put in, that the deep analysis guys put in, Matt Eberflus, again, great coordinator, but he was not the top people in those candidates during the 2021 cycle. So let's be fair. He was not.
People are campaigning now for Thomas Brown to be in consideration.
He okay. And he had a lot of praise from Sean McVay. He is a guy that has had a lot of respect around the league. He's been an assistant head coach in the past. I don't mind giving him an interview, but remember, this is 1 week. I need to see leaps and bounds improvement by the end of the year to even consider that move. Let's pump the brakes in that regard. Like,
absolutely,
I don't mind if he does well at the end and we can hear him out, but like, I only give faith if this offense starts becoming like, holy crap, here's like, I don't know, like looking kind of like Detroit, not even like exactly Detroit, but like closer, at least more explosive. That's what I'm hoping for, but we can't jump there. There's a lot of fans that have been trying to put Thomas Brown on a pedestal this week, and cool, but like we should pump the brakes a little bit here on that.
Right. I agree. I think you have to. Depends how the season goes. If the offense continues to grow, you give him the opportunity to like interview for it. Like, hey, let's talk it out. What out of respect. Got to give it time. Teams always get the benefit of coaching change. But yes,
correct.
That's why we just got to see if the offense takes another step forward and competes and does those things, and just give him the opportunity to whoever the general manager is at that point. That's a whole other, and just interview for it. Lay out your plans.
And tying back to this week, I think this is a great next game for Thomas Brown to prove himself. Again, Brian Flores is to many is like considered one of the best, if not some people argue is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL right now.
Yes.
So great test if we're talking coaching battle, and you got a full week of practice as well. Brian Flores has a full week of film now and a full week of practice to have analyzed the Bears' new supposed game plan, or at least what it's evolving to be. So keep an eye. I mean, hey, if they come out here and they surprise and they, run roughshod over Minnesota, then sure, shit, let's talk about it. Okay. But they got to do that. It's no cakewalk with how they have that set up right now. It's no cakewalk to play that defense right now, is all I'm saying.
Right. I agree. Man, that took a turn. I appreciate all the chat. Like that's.
Yeah, no, I appreciate. Look, like we'll debate you guys in chat. Like Chris, thank you for that. We're not afraid to discuss with chat. And Sarah, thanks for the tips and talk. So appreciate you all for the conversation. We love talking with chat. If we got good convo, developmental conversation on this whole subject.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell worked with Thomas in LA, so he knows Tom. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. He this is his opportunity to kind of show what he can bring to the table, give him the opportunity just to interview for it. But I also, no offense to Thomas Brown, if Kyle Shanahan's out there, if Ben Johnson just does show.
I mean, if Shanahan's available, you have to give him a call, right? Like you can't ignore that.
Right.
I think you have to give him a call.
I think you have to. And then maybe bring back Nick Fangio as DC. Maybe we got to do that too.
If we could find, I mean, I'll tell you, that's one of the other mistakes that doesn't get talked about enough is Vic leaving the building in 2019. Understandably so, but feels like that was almost like the same effect as like when oh my God, why am I saying this wrong? I keep thinking Ron Rivera. When Ron Rivera left Chicago in 2007.
Yeah.
Same effect.
That's another one. Or is it time for Lovie Smith?
No, his time's passed. Let him retire. Let him be a grandpa. It's okay.
Or just just bring him back as an analyst. Like, hey, this is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, why not Chicago? Do it for the like the local Fox 32 network they do there. Yeah, and Luke and Ellis, shooting the shit.
Yeah, just that could be his role. Like, there you go.
I could see that being a good show. Like him and Lou. Yeah. I would totally do that.
Oh, for sure. Well, thanks anybody that watched or listened. Thanks for the chat there at the end. We thought we were done and then just kind of kept going. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So, thanks everybody for watching it or listening. Another. Ooh.
And if Shanahan's available,
that's who's coming.
That's a pretty easy grab, you would think, right?
Like, oh, absolutely.
That'd be pretty. I don't know. I'm kind of now. I think this might be a good. We might have to watch out for that. Hey, you know what? San Francisco, maybe we're rooting for you to let us have a fresh start.
I hope the 49ers lose every game and Shanahan becomes available and you have to give that guy a call.
Maybe there's a chance. Perhaps. Maybe there's a chance.
Chris, appreciate you for saying that.
Yeah, thanks, man. And by the way, guys, would really appreciate if you drop a sub here, drop a like on the show. I know we're a little inconsistent because we got lives, but we do try and at least do one show a week. So you're guaranteed from us usually one show a week, which right now we're targeting like Wednesday right now. Hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, it's mainly my fault because Coach Steve is not just a made up name. I have coached varsity football.
This man coaches 3 sports.
Years.
Like he is busy all year round, people.
I have 4 basketball games next week. Like, leave me alone.
He balances it very well.
But yeah, we'll see if we can't. I'm a Vikings fan. Vikings scribes.
Heck yeah. Crossing enemy lines. I love it.
Sarah, I was on the Let's Skull podcast on Wednesday, so I crossed enemy lines to the enemy. Like, I was there.
Love it.
I'm not afraid to do that. I just won't do it for a Packers one. I don't know if I can cross.
Yeah,
that.
we can't do that.
I can't cross.
I'll never go on the green and gold or the puke mix. I will not go on the puke mix podcast.
Well, I think that's
the hell that is.
Like, Sarah, I think could maybe contest to this, or whoever. Vikings fans and Bears fans have one thing in common. We all
hate the Packers. She said it too right there. Yes. Thank you. Perfect timing.
No, we'll try to do a post game. We'll see how that goes, and then shooting for another one to talk about the matchup versus the Lions for Thanksgiving. That'll be on 11:30 Central Time, and oh god, that's going to be a physical game right there.
Mm-hmm.
We got score predictions.
We got 2 of them.
30-13.
That's a blowout. Bears 23, Vikings 19 from Hector Zambrano.
Yeah, I agree. I like that one.
Which, by the way, Hector, I see you joining late. If you haven't followed along, do that. Be ready for next show later this week. Yeah. Don't want to miss it.
Flus won't be gone. I know he should be, but they just don't do it.
I know. Well, we can all pray. We'll look, prayer circle that things progress offensively, but Matt Eberflus unfortunately moves on earlier than most expect after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So we'll find out.
All field goals, no touchdowns. That might happen too.
Yeah. Black
end
and blue
of the year.
game.
Yeah, he needs to be gone at the end of the year. Like
Easily. And yes, we know they never fire midseason.
Yes, they don't.
We are very aware they don't fire midseason. Good God. I had John Parker Romo.
Yes.
He had a good we can keep going. I love this. I love good chat.
Love it. Yeah. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. I try to post when we go live on X Coach_Steve72 all the time too. So I always try to make it and try to post it when it happens. So we try to do a post game, try to do a preview. My life is chaotic, so that's why. So thanks everybody watching or listening. Thanks for the chat. We'll see you guys next time.